The Vickers Machine Gun, the weapon that dominated the trenches. In 1884, an American inventor named Hiram Maxim revolutionized warfare. He created the world's first truly automatic machine gun, a weapon that could fire continuously as long as the trigger was held and ammunition supplied. The Maxim gun used the recoil energy from each shot to automatically eject the spent cartridge, load the next round, and fire again, achieving rates of fire up to 600 rounds per minute. This was 10 times faster than even the most skilled rifleman could achieve. Maxim famously said, "In 1882, I was in Vienna, where I met an American whom I had known in the States. He said, 'Hang your chemistry and electricity. If you want to make a pile of money, invent something that will enable these Europeans to cut each other's throats with greater facility.'" Maxim took this cynical advice to heart and created one of history's most deadly weapons. The British Army, always interested in new military technology, adopted the Maxim gun in the 1890s. British forces used Maxim guns to devastating effect in colonial wars across Africa and Asia, where the weapon's superiority over indigenous forces was absolute. In the Battle of Omdurman in 1898, British and Egyptian forces armed with Maxim guns killed over 10,000 Sudanese warriors, while suffering fewer than 50 fatalities themselves. The poet Hilaire Belloc captured this asymmetry grimly. "Whatever happens, we have got the Maxim gun, and they have not." However, the original Maxim gun, while revolutionary, had significant drawbacks. It was extremely heavy, weighing over 60 pounds without its tripod and water cooling system. It was expensive to manufacture. It required extensive maintenance. Recognizing these limitations, Vickers, Sons and Maxim, the company that had acquired Maxim's patents, set about improving the design. The result was the Vickers Machine Gun, adopted by the British Army in 1912, just 2 years before the outbreak of World War I. This timing would prove historically significant. The Vickers would become the dominant machine gun of the British Army throughout both World Wars, serving with distinction for over 50 years. The inventors and development. The Vickers machine gun was not the creation of a single inventor, but rather the product of systematic engineering improvement. Vickers Limited, a British engineering company founded in 1828, had diversified into armaments manufacturing in the late 19th century. The company employed teams of engineers who worked to refine existing weapons and develop new ones. In the case of the Vickers gun, the goal was to take Hiram Maxim's proven design and make it lighter, more reliable, and cheaper to produce. The chief improvements involved simplification. The Vickers gun used fewer parts than the Maxim, reducing complexity and manufacturing cost. The mechanism was inverted compared to the Maxim, with the bolt assembly positioned below the barrel rather than above it. This lowered the center of gravity, making the gun more stable during firing. The water jacket surrounding the barrel was redesigned to be lighter while still providing effective cooling. The overall weight was reduced to about 33 pounds for the gun itself, nearly half the weight of the original Maxim. The Vickers gun retained the Maxim's recoil-operated water-cooled mechanism. When a round was fired, the recoil drove the barrel and bolt assembly backward against a spring. As the bolt moved rearward, it extracted and ejected the spent cartridge. As the spring drove the bolt forward again, it stripped a new round from the ammunition belt and chambered it. This cycle repeated automatically, up to 500 times per minute, as long as the trigger remained depressed and ammunition was fed into the gun. The water cooling system was crucial to sustained fire capability. The barrel was surrounded by a jacket containing approximately 7 pints of water. As the gun fired, heat from the barrel boiled the water, and the steam was condensed in a tube and returned to the jacket, creating a closed system. This allowed the Vickers to fire for extended periods without overheating, unlike air-cooled machine guns, which could only fire in short bursts before the barrel became dangerously hot. A well-maintained Vickers gun with adequate ammunition and water could fire continuously for hours. Design and technical specifications. The Vickers machine gun fired the standard British .303-inch rifle cartridge, the same ammunition used in the Lee Enfield rifle. This logistical simplicity was a significant advantage. The gun fed from a canvas belt holding 250 rounds. The belt passed through the gun from left to right as the gun fired. Spent cartridges were ejected downward, and the empty belt links fell away to the side. Gun crews typically had multiple belts ready, allowing them to maintain fire by quickly loading a new belt when the previous one was exhausted. The gun was mounted on a tripod weighing about 50 pounds. This heavy tripod provided exceptional stability, which translated to accuracy. The Vickers could fire indirect fire missions, like artillery, with the gun aimed at an angle to drop bullets on targets beyond the line of sight. The tripod had adjustment mechanisms allowing precise targeting. In defensive positions, the Vickers could be aimed at specific points using range cards, preset traversing and elevation stops, and even fitted with optical sights for precision fire at long ranges. The rate of fire was typically around 450 to 500 rounds per minute, though the gun was capable of faster fire if needed. This rate of fire was not the theoretical maximum, but rather the practical sustainable rate that balanced hitting power with ammunition consumption and barrel wear. 450 rounds per minute meant the Vickers fired 7.5 rounds every second, a sustained stream of bullets that could devastate any target. The effective range of the Vickers was approximately 2,000 yards, over a mile. With proper adjustment and favorable conditions, the gun could engage targets at even greater distances, though accuracy diminished beyond 2,000 yards. The sustained, high-volume fire of the Vickers made it effective even at long ranges, where individual shots might miss, but the sheer number of bullets ensured hits on target. The gun required a crew of 3 to 6 men. The gunner operated the trigger and traversed the gun left and right. The number 2 loaded ammunition belts and helped adjust elevation. Additional crew members carried ammunition, spare parts, and water for the cooling system. In combat, crew members would rotate positions to prevent fatigue, as operating the gun for extended periods was physically demanding despite its mechanical operation. World War I, dominating the trenches. When World War I began in August 1914, the British Army possessed relatively few Vickers guns. The prevailing military doctrine emphasized rifle fire and maneuver, with machine guns viewed as specialized weapons for defensive positions. This perspective would change rapidly once trench warfare developed. By 1915, the demand for Vickers guns far exceeded supply. Production was ramped up dramatically, with multiple factories manufacturing guns around the clock. The Vickers gun proved ideal for trench warfare. Its water cooling system allowed sustained defensive fire that air-cooled guns could not match. Its reliability was legendary. Stories circulated of Vickers guns firing continuously for hours, even days, with only brief pauses to change barrels and allow the gun to cool slightly. The most famous example occurred during the Battle of Loos in September 1915, when 10 Vickers guns from the 100th Company of the Machine Gun Corps fired continuously for 12 hours, expending 1 million rounds in total. Only one gun experienced a stoppage, and that was quickly cleared. This performance demonstrated the Vickers' extraordinary reliability under extreme conditions. The Vickers was devastatingly effective against attacking infantry. A single gun could cover a front of several hundred yards, its sustained fire creating an impenetrable barrier. German soldiers attacking across no man's land faced storms of machine gun fire that cut them down in windows. The first day of the Battle of the Somme, July 1, 1916, saw British forces suffer nearly 60,000 casualties, many from German machine gun fire. The Vickers guns defending British trenches inflicted similar casualties on German counterattacks. Machine guns fundamentally changed infantry tactics. Frontal assaults against prepared positions became suicidal. Attackers had to use covered approaches, smoke screens, and artillery support to have any chance of success. The dominance of defensive firepower contributed to the stalemate on the Western Front.
neither side could achieve a decisive breakthrough because machine guns and barbed wire made defensive positions nearly impregnable. The British developed specialized machine gun tactics. The Machine Gun Corps, formed in October 1915, concentrated machine guns under centralized control rather than distributing them piecemeal among infantry units. This allowed massed fire from multiple guns to be coordinated against priority targets. Machine gun barrages could provide suppressive fire during attacks, forcing enemy defenders to take cover. Indirect fire missions allowed Vickers guns to engage targets beyond visual range, functioning similarly to light artillery. One innovative tactic was harassing fire. At night, Vickers guns would fire predetermined patterns across no man's land and into enemy rear areas using preset aiming points. This fire disrupted enemy rest and resupply, caused casualties, and generally made life miserable for enemy troops. The psychological impact of constant machine gun fire, even if it cost relatively few casualties, was significant, contributing to exhaustion and stress among troops. The Vickers also proved valuable in offensive operations. Portable on its tripod, it could be advanced to support attacking infantry, providing covering fire against enemy positions. Its long range allowed it to engage targets that infantry rifles couldn't effectively reach. As attacking forces consolidated captured positions, Vickers guns would be quickly emplaced to defend against counterattacks. World War II. Continued service. By the outbreak of World War II in 1939, the Vickers gun was over 25 years old. Many military analysts expected it to be obsolete, replaced by more modern designs. Yet the Vickers remained in frontline service throughout World War II, testament to the soundness of its design. While newer machine guns like the Bren had replaced the Vickers in infantry sections, the Vickers continued as the primary sustained fire support weapon for British and Commonwealth forces. The Vickers served in every theater of World War II. In North Africa, it defended British positions against German and Italian attacks. The gun's reliability in dusty, hot conditions was crucial. Crews served would wrap cloth around the gun's mechanisms to keep out sand, and the water cooling system actually proved advantageous in desert conditions where air-cooled guns would overheat rapidly. In the jungles of Burma and Malaya, Vickers guns provided crucial fire support against Japanese attacks. The Japanese infantry tactics often involved night infiltration and sudden close-range assaults. Vickers guns, pre-aimed at likely approach routes, could respond instantly when attacks developed, their sustained fire breaking up Japanese formations.
In Europe, from the D-Day landings through the campaign into Germany, Vickers guns supported British and Canadian forces. They defended positions, provided covering fire for advances, and engaged German counterattacks. The gun's long range allowed it to engage targets at distances where other weapons would be ineffective. One notable World War II action involved a British unit defending a position in North Africa. A single Vickers gun, expertly handled by its crew, broke up repeated German infantry attacks over several hours, expending thousands of rounds. The gun functioned flawlessly throughout the engagement, and the position held. Such actions, repeated countless times across multiple theaters, demonstrated the Vickers' continued effectiveness a generation after its introduction. The Vickers was also adapted for vehicle mounting. Tanks, armored cars, and aircraft carried Vickers guns as secondary armament. The naval version, with modifications for maritime use, served on British warships as anti-aircraft and anti-boat defense. This versatility across multiple platforms demonstrated the fundamental soundness of the design. Technical reliability and maintenance. The Vickers gun's legendary reliability stemmed from several factors. The design was mechanically simple, with relatively few moving parts. The parts that did move were robustly constructed, and tolerances were generous enough that dirt and fouling didn't immediately cause stoppages. The water cooling system prevented heat-related malfunctions that plagued air-cooled designs. However, this reliability required proper maintenance. Gun crews were trained in detailed maintenance procedures. After firing, the gun would be cleaned thoroughly. The barrel interior was scrubbed to remove fouling. All moving parts were inspected, cleaned, and lubricated. The water in the cooling jacket was changed regularly to prevent mineral buildup. Crew members learned to disassemble and reassemble the gun blindfolded, ensuring they could maintain it even in darkness or under battle stress. Common stoppages, when they occurred, could usually be cleared quickly. Most stoppages involved ammunition feed issues, where the belt didn't advance properly or a cartridge wasn't fully chambered. Crew members practiced immediate action drills to clear stoppages in seconds. Serious malfunctions were rare with proper maintenance, but gun crews carried spare parts, including firing pins, springs, and extractors. The gun's longevity in service partly resulted from this maintainability. A well-cared-for Vickers could remain in service for decades. Many guns manufactured during World War I were still in service during World War II, having fired millions of rounds while requiring only routine maintenance and occasional parts replacement. The wider impact and legacy. The Vickers machine gun influenced military doctrine far beyond its use by British forces. Other nations studied its performance and developed their own sustained-fire machine guns. The German MG-08, itself a development of the Maxim gun, served a similar role in the German army. The French Hotchkiss machine gun, while mechanically different, filled the same tactical niche. The American Browning M1917 water-cooled machine gun, introduced late in World War I, showed clear influence from studying the Vickers. The tactical lessons learned from the Vickers' use shaped military thinking about machine guns. The importance of sustained fire capability, the value of water cooling for defensive positions, the need for specialized machine gun units rather than dispersing guns throughout infantry formations, these concepts became standard military doctrine. Post-World War II, the Vickers gradually phased out of British service, replaced by the L7 general-purpose machine gun in the 1960s. The L7, a licensed version of the Belgian FN-MAG, represented a different philosophy, an air-cooled, lighter gun that could serve both as a squad automatic weapon and a sustained fire gun. This reflected changes in tactics emphasizing mobility over static defense. However, the Vickers didn't simply disappear. Many were sold to other nations and remained in service for years. Some saw combat as late as the 1990s in various conflicts around the world. The design's simplicity and reliability meant that even after official retirement, Vickers guns continued functioning decades after their manufacture. Modern perspective. From a modern perspective, the Vickers represents a particular philosophy of warfare. It was a defensive weapon designed to hold ground against attacking forces. Its weight made it difficult to move quickly, but once in place, it was nearly unstoppable. This contrasts with modern general-purpose machine guns, which emphasize versatility and mobility over specialized sustained-fire capability. Modern machine guns are lighter, fire faster, and can be carried and employed by smaller crews. They use quick change barrels to manage heat rather than water cooling. They fire from disintegrating belt links or magazines rather than cloth belts. They incorporate advanced materials and manufacturing techniques that would have seemed miraculous to Vickers gun crews. Yet certain fundamentals remain unchanged. Machine guns still provide sustained high-volume fire. They still serve both offensive and defensive roles. They still require trained crews. The tactical problems that the Vickers solved
how to provide sustained suppressive fire, how to defend positions against numerically superior attackers, how to support advancing infantry with covering fire. These problems still exist, and modern machine guns address them using concepts pioneered with weapons like the Vickers.
The gun's success stemmed from sound engineering principles applied systematically to create a weapon that was effective, reliable, and maintainable. The Vickers demonstrated that sophisticated machinery could function in the worst conditions imaginable: the mud and blood of the Western Front, the deserts of North Africa, the jungles of Burma, as long as it was properly designed and maintained. The men who designed the Vickers, the engineers at Vickers Limited, created more than just a weapon. They created a piece of machinery so fundamentally sound that it remained relevant and effective across dramatic changes in warfare and technology. From the trenches of World War I to the mobile warfare of World War II, the Vickers adapted and endured. For the soldiers who served the Vickers, it was more than machinery. It was a trusted partner that had saved their lives and the lives of their comrades countless times. Veterans spoke with respect, even affection, about their guns. They knew every quirk, every sound, every adjustment. They knew that when everything else failed, when circumstances were desperate, the Vickers would keep firing. The Vickers machine gun stands as one of the most successful military weapons ever produced. Not because it was the most advanced or the most powerful, but because it worked. Reliably, consistently, hour after hour, year after year, decade after decade, the Vickers worked. In warfare, that reliability is perhaps the highest virtue any weapon can possess.